From gardening to animals to extreme renovations, welcome to Homesteading at College Hill Farm. Welcome back to College Hill Farm. Today we're doing a garden tour. It's May the 31st and the garden's coming on. We've had the last 6 days has rained, so I haven't been able to get out in the garden much. I'm going to do a couple things this morning, but they don't involve the garden. Of course, I've been having some problems, so it was nice to take a break. I'm going to get at the bathroom for the next 3 or 4 days because it's going to not rain for 3 or 4 days. And then I'll have to get out here in the garden and hoe and plant because it's June. It'll be June tomorrow. So it's time to plant our corn, beans, watermelons, tomatoes. We've already planted some tomatoes, but plant more tomatoes. Plant pumpkins and squash, and it's time to get at it. Okra. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how the garden's doing today. The weeds. We've got knotweed here. I don't know if you've got knotweed. I hate the stuff. I call it knothead weed because you cut it off, it's back tomorrow. It's tough stuff to deal with, but we deal with it the best we can. And so I'm going to show you how we're doing. Okay, starting the homestead update here in the basement. The fluorescent lights I just felt like weren't doing what they needed to do. So here in the last week I've replaced part of the fluorescents with or not the fluorescents, but the LEDs with fluorescents, and I'm starting to see a little progress. These things, they just weren't doing what they needed to do. I think it's a matter of wattage. The fluorescents are about 80 watts, but the LEDs were only 32 watts, and I think the amount of wattage was just, was the amount of growth you could get. So I think that's what happened. So I've changed out and put the fluorescents back down. They're 80 watts, and we're going to see if that makes a difference. These are supposed to be out in the garden in 2 more weeks, but it just doesn't look like they're going to get there. There's a weed. Must have been some weeds in that stuff. So we just have to see where we go from here. The concrete's dry on the downstairs bathroom build, so that's got to get started on. Went and got the lumber yesterday for the bathroom build and a window to go in. So that's moving right along. Here are our cucumbers. They're doing good. The weeds are starting to come up, but you'll notice some of these that came out of the basement, they're blooming. Let's go look at some of the others. It's almost time to hoe and put the hay down. Now here's the others that we planted. You see they're coming on. Really coming on. So it won't be long that they'll be caught up with those up there. I'd like to tell you that our broccoli and cauliflower are doing good now that I've killed 6 groundhogs and 5 rabbits. But if you follow us on Facebook, you'll notice that I give up on broccoli and cauliflower for this spring, because all that broccoli and cauliflower we replanted ate off to the ground, all of it. So I think to the groundhogs I have lost 229 broccoli and cauliflower plants. Well, I've trapped them, I've shot them, I've done everything I know to do to get rid of them. Well, I've located their dens, I know where they're at. So I've got to get rid of the rest of the groundhogs. Well, they're trap shy now, And I haven't got time to sit out in the field and wait on them to come around. So I did a little research and I've come up with this. Maybe it's ample that it's called Revenge, but maybe it's fitting that it's called Revenge. So I'm going to get rid of those babies. I'm not going to put that on video. As a matter of fact, I hate doing it this way. This way you lose them, you don't get to eat them, the chickens don't get to eat them. They're kind of wasted. But if you can't grow your garden because of pests, you got to get rid of them. So let's continue on and I'll show you the rest of the garden. Here are my potatoes. Some of the knothead weed is trying to catch up and get ahead of them. See a big old milkweed there. I hoed out that row before the rain started, so they're starting to bloom. But now I've got to get these other rows hoed out, but they weren't as weedy, so the potatoes had time to catch up. So I'm going to try and get that done though this week, get them weeded out and healed up. I like to heal them about the time they're blooming, and they're starting to bloom, especially the red Pontiacs and the blue Adirondacks. So, okay, we've got peppers, tomatoes, and a set of Roma tomatoes. Now, I did an extra set of Romas, and the reason I did this extra set of Romas, and I bought these, because the bed is not putting out like it ought to, and I'll explain that when we get to it. But the tomatoes are looking okay. They're ready to cage. They're going to start falling over if I don't cage them. The peppers, the banana and the habaneros and that stuff's right there. They're doing pretty good. Come on, let's get started. Now here's our onions, and over there in the weeds is my garlic. I just haven't got out there and got to it. And then here is the bell peppers. They're looking pretty good. But 5 days of rain brings on a ton of weeds. So as soon as it dries up enough, I'm going to have to get out here in the garden and get rid of these weeds. Because if you don't get rid of the weeds, you don't get much produce. My garlic I may have lost already, but we'll see. Now, here's what I want to talk about quite a bit. Okay, here we are at the grape arbor. I showed you how to prune them. Got a little pecan tree starting up right here. It needs to get out of there. Anyway, I showed you how to prune them, and I want to show you what leaving two does. Now, when I did these, and I pruned back, let me find one that'll just show you really good. When I prune these, you'll remember that I left two, see, pruned it back and left 2 to 3 things. Well, what happens is new growth comes out there. On every new growth, there's a set of grapes. So on this one, because I left 2, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bunches of grapes sitting on that one part. Now, these grapevines can benefit from clearing out these bases. So I'll have to come back and do that. We've got some of these weeds growing up here, but for the most part, they're doing really well. Now, it's time for the Japanese beetles. And if you don't be proactive with those Japanese beetles, they will eat every leaf off your grapevines. And that's always not a good thing. Now it's awful muddy and I don't want to get out there, but I'll try and zoom in a little bit. These are some eggplants that I planted. They're basically eat up with bugs. I showed somebody one time on one of those homesteading sites. I'm a member of a lot of the homesteading sites, and I share a video every now and then. And I shared how I take care of eggplant. Well, around here, if you don't spray eggplant, you don't get none. So, and those folks went crazy because I sprayed a little pyrethrin on my eggplants. They just have to get over it, because if you don't spray them here in central Kentucky, you don't get no eggplant. Okay. Here I am in the orchard. The orchard trees are growing beautifully. You know, there's a plum tree, and there's a peach tree. Peach tree and a peach tree, and on the back there's a plum tree, and here's a plum tree, and here's a cherry tree. Now, one of our cherries died. I think the van cherry died, so I'm going to have to get another cherry to pollinate this one. But the odd thing this year, I don't have a fruit. Not one fruit set on this year. I don't know what that was about, but I don't have a fruit one that's set on any of the plums, the cherries, nothing. No fruits. So it's just going to be one of those years. Of course, I haven't really got much fruit out of this orchard yet. You know, when you get to your property, the very first thing you ought to do is plant an orchard, because it's going to take it the longest to produce. So, you know, my kids might get good off of these orchards. I may never get any to speak of. But now I'm just 56, so maybe I'll get a few. This pear tree has just grown like crazy. I need to top it so it doesn't get too tall to where you couldn't collect the pears if it had them on them. Got this one limb, it's laying down here like it's covered with pears, but there's not a pear anywhere to be seen. So, I don't know. That's how the orchard's doing. Let's go talk about the beds. I did do one thing this week. I cut my hay. You'll see it all around the garden here and up toward the barn. I got the hay all cut. Probably Monday I'll rake that all up, because I'm going to use it on the cucumbers and the watermelons and cantaloupes. And I'll just deposit it over here by the cucumbers this year and just use it for that, because I don't anticipate getting the goat barn done till this winter. Now here's our little outdoor bed of aromas. I planted enough to have 200 plants, but what I've got there, I think I got in there and counted, and I've only got like 52. So those seeds apparently weren't too good. So I need to plant more aroma seeds. Aromas are done in 75 days. Okay, 75 to 80 days. So I've got time to plant a set in the basement too. So I'll have to plant a set of those and plan for fall planting, along with the fall planting of broccoli and cauliflower and that stuff. So I've got 48 romas in the field. This will make me about 100 in the field. And if I plant 48 or 50 more in the basement, we'll be all right. We'll be able to can and dehydrate and do what we need to do with them. Let's look over here at the sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, a lot of weeds in there, but there's a lot of sweet potatoes coming up. I need to weed it. If you'll remember, I was 2 weeks late getting my sweet potatoes out. So they actually have another 2 weeks. So I need to get in here and get on my hands and knees and weed the weeds out from between these sweet potatoes that are there, so that they make nice big vines. And then we'll be ready to plant about June the 15th, the sweet potatoes. And it's 120 days for sweet potatoes. So that takes us July, August, September, and October the 15th. then they'll be ready. My last frost date is the 30th of October, so our first frost date. Okay, finally, here's our herb beds, and the herb beds are ringed with onions. I just do that because it's a place to put the extra onions. There's some weeds in there. We had an 12 day dry spell, so the herb beds took it kind of hard, but they're coming on and looking pretty good. Let's step over here and look at the lettuces. The lettuces are ready to harvest again. We'll get out here with the scissors and have at it. Looks like some of these are bolting, and that's arugula. I just pull it out of there. That's arugula. That's what it looks like. We love it. That stuff is awesome. Some folks call it rocket. It just spices up your salad in just so many ways. But we have salad this time of year. We have salad every day with Crystal's homemade dressing made out of Cherokee purple tomatoes and olive oil and vinegar, red wine vinegar. Okay, let's go talk a little bit. Okay, that's our garden tour. It's May the 31st. We are going to, I always wait till June to plant certain crops. Basil, I plant in June. And I try and put it out the 1st of June. So basil, I plant in June. Dill, we plant in June. Corn and beans, we plant in June. Watermelons, cantaloupes, I plant in June. What else? Pumpkins. We plant squash all through the month of June. You know, I planted squash 3 weeks ago. It's time to put out another 3 hills, 4 hills, 5, something like that. I'll plant that all summer long, about every 3 or 4 weeks, until it gets to where it won't make because the frost is coming. We've still got to plant eggplant. Now, one of the problems, you saw my aroma tomatoes. I've got a problem that I don't have enough. Crystal and I use aromas for our canning tomatoes. And the reason we do that is because they just make a great paste tomato. They can up really well. They don't have too much water. So they're a real bonus for us. So I've got to get more aromas. Well, the beautiful thing about aromas is they take 75 to 80 days from seed. So I've got plenty of time. This is going to be June the 1st tomorrow. So July the 1st, August the 1st, September the 1st, October the 1st is 120 days. So I got plenty of time to start a set of aroma seeds in the basement and do that. Now, as far as the basement goes, I've always planted seeds under fluorescent lights. This year you saw our video of planting them under LED lights. I'm not satisfied with the way the LED lights have worked out. They did not give me the robust plants that the fluorescent lights have always given me over the years, and I think the reason for that is a matter of pure power. LEDs only consume about 32 watts worth of power. Now, the plants absorb energy from a light. If the light is generated, this is being a physics teacher, the light is generating the power for the plants. The LED will only put out 32 watts of power. So the plants didn't grow much. They're just really not responding well. They've got 6 weeks on them, and they should be getting ready to about go in the garden, but they're not. So what I did was I took the LEDs off and replaced the LEDs in my house replaced the fluorescents in my basement with the LEDs. So what that's going to do for me is it will allow me to still have the LEDs in the basement to be cheaper to run, but I'll have the fluorescents still to raise the plants on, because I know those do good and the LEDs didn't. So that's where I am with that. So I need to plant some more of the Roma tomatoes. I need at least 50 more. I'm going to have, like, I bought 48 because I really didn't like how they were coming up in the bed. So I bought a flat of 48. There's not a flat of 48 to be bought now. It's that time of year. Everybody's quit selling them. So I'm going to have to raise my own in the basement, which that's fine with me. I'll raise my own anyway. But I could raise them in a bed out here. I can make another bed and raise a set. But I'm going to raise them in the basement just for the heck of it. And then I've got to do a fall planting of broccoli and cauliflower after I get rid of my varmints. They have been my bane this spring, but you know, I hate anything trying to live its little life. You know, groundhogs are just living their little groundhog life. You know, so I hate doing it that way, but if Crystal and I want to eat broccoli and cauliflower, that's the only way we're going to have any, is if I deal with those groundhogs. So if you like this sort of thing, this homesteading way of life, we show it every week on the channel. We try to put out something. This may be the only video this week because we've had nothing but solid rain for the last 6 days. So if you like our stuff, there's a little button right here where you can press it and subscribe. You can also go to our Facebook page. You press this little button, it'll take you to our YouTube page, and it has a link to our Facebook page as well. Like our Facebook page, it lets you know the things that are going on, different stuff. So if you like this sort of stuff, subscribe and come back. We put on 1 video a week or 5 videos a week. Just depends on what was going on that week. And now it's time for me to get on to the next thing.